Well, so now let's introduce our guest for the morning. Vanderpuye is a member of parliament for the Ododo constituency. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Okay, he was a former sports minister, a deputy for trade, and also a deputy for local government. But talking about local government, we have a deputy minister for local government in the studio. Ose Bunsuama. Obi Amwa is a member of parliament also for Ikrapim South. Thanks for joining me, Obi.
Thank you.
An experienced legislator. And also gaining a lot more experience is also Vanderpuye. But today we want basically to focus on the subject of a recall of not only the two, but all of those members of parliament who are expected to be in parliament from today, and to basically discuss a memo filed by the minority chief whip, Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak, demanding an emergency sitting to consider a motion for a parliamentary probe into the controversial cash for seats scandal involving the trade ministry. And the minority has already maintained they're insisting for a bipartisan probe into the involvement of the trade ministry in the collection of between $15,000 and $100,000 from expatriate businesses to secure them a seat at the table of President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who was present at the award ceremony that took place on the 8th of December 2017. So we're bringing 2017 issues into the new year. And a memo signed by Muntaka Mubarak and his counterpart from North Tongue, Okujetu Ablakwa, wants the House to take urgent action on the matter. But that'll be for midway discussions on all the subjects we'll be looking at. But we start with the issues of, let's go to the DVLA first. And we know this has been an ongoing controversy. This morning, Mamavi Uswabwaje tried to also take a critical look at how the prices of the kits were on the markets, etc. But since the two of you are also very much sports people, I just want a comment or two from you from the CAF Awards that took place yesterday. I start with you, Obi. We had Mohamed Salah of Liverpool and of Egypt winning or being crowned ultimately the Player of the Year by CAF.
Well, thank you, Roland, and good morning to viewers and to you and my good friend Nilante, who hopes to be president one day. I receive it in Jesus' name. And happy New Year, happy 2018 to everybody. Well, last night was good. I watched it, and I think almost everybody expected Mo Salah to win the award, and we were not disappointed. It was well organized, well patronized. The president was there as a special guest, and indeed he showed that he knows football and he loves football. I mean, when he was receiving the award for Ghana, as he put it, for the young people of Ghana, he started from James Ejay and ran through to Asamoah Gyan. He could have even mentioned more. It went very well. The little thing I noticed, which probably we should have found a way of correcting it if really it was a mistake, was the fact that on the entertainment side, I didn't see any Ghanaian performer. Probably because the sponsors are from outside Ghana. We ended up with only artists from outside Ghana, even though they are top artists, from Flavor to our own lady, the Nigerian, what's her name? Savage, Tiwa Savage, and the others. It went very well, but that was the little thing I noticed. I thought maybe they could have flavored it.
Because the last year or last 2 years, we had Shatawale going to Nigeria to perform, I think 2 years ago.
Yes, that one aspect was that, and the other aspect was the fact that, regrettably, Ghana didn't win any award. Not in the group category or not in the individual side. So they felt they could give us something and then give us the trophy for the president.
Some consolation.
Some consolation.
Okay.
But beyond that, it went very well. They tried to bring some innovations in and it looked quite interesting. Thankfully, for the Football of the Year, all the nominees turned up. And then the other aspect of it is that now the Cup of Nations has been shifted from January to June, that is after the season in Europe. So it's changed even the dynamics of it. By and large, it's good. They should continue with that. probably we should make it a showcase for the whole world to know that. When it
That we
comes
also have top talent,
Yes.
etc.
So it went well.
Well, let me also take the opportunity of wishing my brother Obi Amwa and all of you here, multimedia, my constituents and all Ghanaians, Happy New Year. Hope to have a better year this particular 2018. In spite of all the prophecies, the doom prophecies we've heard, it is my hope and prayer that the Lord will shine his blessings and favor upon this country, and that he will turn all our ills to good. He said he will use the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. So he should bring the counsel of Ahithophel to nothing. So I pray for a very good year. Yesterday, yes, as Obi Amwa said, I think the whole program was elegant, well planned, and I think the event organizers themselves did very well. I like the appearance. I decided not to go at the last minute because when I had the invite, it's been stated in the invite, strictly black tie. And I have a principle stand that I, Nilanti Vanderpuye, will never be in suit for any national ceremony. So I decided that if I'm going to be compelled to wear a suit and a black tie, then I won't go. So I called the organizer and told them I wasn't coming because of their insistence.
Because we're Africans, yes?
Yes. And I thought that when we are doing something like this in Africa to portray our culture, football is culture. We must give our people the opportunity. But later on watching it, I saw the Nigerian delegation and other people in their traditional wears and all those things. And I felt, then why did they put that on the invite that is strictly black tie?
Perhaps you could have defied protocol too.
No, as somebody like me, I shouldn't take those things for granted. What about if you get there and you are embarrassed? So I tried getting in touch with the organizers. I couldn't. I tried Tony Bafo's number several times. I couldn't get him. Last minute when I got the vice president of the FA, he said I could come. But looking at the time, by the time I get to the venue, I possibly may be crashing with the entrance of His Excellency the President, which to me is not advisable. So I just stayed back and watched everything from the start. I share the sentiments of Obi Amwa, and I think it's condemnable. If we are hosting the thing, no matter where the resources is coming from, no matter who we're organizing the thing, we are hosting the thing. It is imperative that Ghanaian performers, Ghanaian artists, who are equally as good as those who came to perform. There's somebody who came, he's called Fabregas. I don't know what he came to do, apart from wriggling his waist.
You're not supposed to take them all individually.
Oh, no, but I'm saying that is what my impression is. And I don't think that person is better than Sarkodia, is better than any of these are performers. So at least, if we are coming to... Yes.
Maybe our performers too were charging too much for them.
No, you see, but whether there is no way I believe Sarkodia Shatawale will charge anything higher than what Flavor will charge.
Or Tiwa Savage.
Or Tiwa Savage.
Or Wizkid.
Yes. You know, so they are all contemporaries. So even if Shatawale or Sarkodia was charging an amount, you tell him this is how much Flavor is taking, this is how much Savage is taking, this, they will definitely understand because they are not going to have extra costs. You know, in terms of artists traveling and all those things, because they have their people here. I think that is not good enough. And I thought that our people should have demanded to see the content of the program and make sure that they made an input into it before this thing is done. I think that is something that the FA failed to do. And I think...
especially when we have a vice president of CAF coming from Ghana.
And what my worry was that our president was there, our former president were there, and they were there. They were enjoying the whole show, tapping their feet and all those things. But our performers were not there.
All right.
It's a bit worrying.
Okay, we have to call it, maybe perhaps move on. But there's something you mentioned that we didn't win individual award, and especially knowing that Ghana is supposed to be a great footballing country, but at the end of the day, we've not had anything to show for it. For example, we're not qualifying to the World Cup, so we have not qualified.
It happens. It happens that you rise to the very top. If you're a bit complacent, then everything is reversed. Egypt is going to the World Cup after how many years? 20 years. So it happens. It doesn't mean that we should accept it. But after being at the World Cup for 3 consecutive times, we thought we could make it the 4th time. We didn't start well and we didn't end well. You know, our matches at home, we had to draw. really sound well for us. And for the female soccer, I thought if we are second only to Nigeria. But now you see the nominees, and Ghana is not even one of the nominees. It means we still have a lot to do. Certainly, hosting it in Ghana and then having our president and all the dignitaries and not speaking anything means there's still a lot of work for us to do.
All right.
I say that possibly we're not qualifying for the World Cup.
I've read in some quarters you are to blame.
That is oh well. Those who say
Don't
that
bring that subject
they don't know what football is. But just like Obiama said, sometimes you see, this is the time for us as a country to sit down and say, look, what are the key objectives we are setting for ourselves? Are we looking at 2022? Are we looking at 2026? Are we looking at 2030? We are looking. So we should set a goal and then plan towards it. If we are looking at 2026, for example, who are the players that we'll be looking at? What sort of arrangement are we going to put in place within the short term to improve upon our local league, our junior levels, our coast league and all? We should have this time to sit down and plan. And when we have planned, then we set target. Let me tell you something. England, after successively failing...
If you leave him, we spend 1 hour talking about football.
Well, I'm just wrapping up with this one. And you get what I'm talking about. England, after successively failing to impress, took a pragmatic decision. And today, for the first time, England has won the World Under-20 and the World Under-17. And if you look at the players they use in these two tournaments, some of them have got the privilege of playing even in the Premier League. It tells you in 5 years' time, if they keep this team together, they could win the World Cup. It's pragmatic decision, objective analysis and programming.
It's okay.
But it also involves investments.
Yeah, a lot of
and we should
investments.
invest.
And we are not willing to invest because government alone can't do it. Yeah. They don't have only government doing it.
I can't say
they get a lot of resources.
I can't say that.
But let's move on to
GB. You cannot plant corn.
I know you're an expert, boss Vanderpuye, so it's okay. But let's go to DVLA and the first aid kit controversy. And Obi, let me start with you. This has been, if you ask me, shouldn't have been an issue at all. Just go and register, buy a kit, and you're free.
Well, it shouldn't be an issue, and it's an issue because we are informed that before you have your license, you should buy the first aid kit. If it's compulsory, then we have problems with that. And for such a decision to be taken without the knowledge of maybe the minister, the board, and even some aspect which should come to Parliament will obviously create problems for the authority. So I'm not surprised that there's a letter coming from the board chairman, if that is really true, that the whole thing has been truncated. And I'm still wondering why DVLA doesn't seem to get some of these things. It started with this towing business. As far as I'm concerned, any charge at DVLA, if it's not the old charge which has been approved by Parliament, but it's a new charge, should go through Ministry of Finance. The Finance will bring it to Parliament under legislative instrument for it to become law. So if indeed they were hoping to impose such a charge on every person seeking to secure a license, then obviously there's a problem there. You may have to come out to explain better how they wanted to execute this. Except to say that the business of ensuring that you've complied with regulations on the road strictly is not the business of DVLA. It's the police which will stop you to find out whether the vehicle that you're using on the road complies with the law. So if I can buy the first aid kit, if I don't put it in my vehicle, that's the offense. It's not buying. The most important thing is it should be in the vehicle for me to comply with the rules and regulations covering driving on the road. So what is this business of forcing anybody to buy as if in the first place, where from this monopolistic idea, where from it that I need to make sure that my eyesight is okay to be able to drive. if I cannot drive without lens or glasses, I should secure one, because I should be able to see on the road. Are they saying that they're going to sell these things at DVLA for those who have to drive with their lenses? So that's where the problem is. Does it mean everything that you need to be able to drive safely on the road, they're going to provide, and it has to be compulsory? You know, when you think through, you're going to have problems. And some of these things, first minute I heard, they were insulting President Kufuor. He doesn't have any business to do with this. Otherwise, the country will not run. I mean, it's put people there to run the place. So if they make mistakes, they should come and explain. Very early in the morning, then you start insulting the president because DVLA says everybody should buy first aid kits. It's very unfortunate, but they have to explain. They shouldn't hide and then think that the minister or government spokespersons will be talking for them. They should come and explain and justify. If you cannot justify, some people are even saying that some heads should start rolling for some of them to sit up. You cannot start the year with these things when there are bigger, better things to talk about. Policies and programs, not such decisions which are not scrutinized.
At the end of the day, we know that the follow-up comments have been that the board was not aware, the ministry was not aware, the minister and his deputy were not aware at all.
I would just tell Obi that on his line I heard that wear the crown. So if President Kufuor was being insulted early in the morning, he should understand. That's what we bargained for. It always happens.
But he's saying it shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, what I'm saying that it always happens. Once we live in a country like we've gone through the same. You just said that when the Blasters failed to qualify for the World Cup, I was held liable. Was I the number 9 player of the Blasters? Was I the coach? Or was I the GFA president? So that is the nature of the politics we do in this country. That's the way we've put in ourselves. I just want to say that it's unfortunate what has happened. I do not expect it to happen, just as Obi said. Because if we have people who know their job, then they should understand that imposing any type of levy should have a parliamentary approval. And this is an imposition of a tax. You are asking people to pay for a product. And that is
how
not
is that a tax?
Yes, it's not part of the fees and regulations that were approved for you as an institution by Parliament. And you are imposing a new fee on people. And you see, like Obi said, this attitude of making things compulsory, it's a bit worrying because there's a regulation, and that regulation can make things enforced. So if the person offends the law by not making provision for that, let it be done. So you make it open that this is what we are offering, buy it in your own surety that the police will not meet you even after leaving our premises without it in your vehicle.
You think that was the way they should have gone?
Seriously.
You don't make it compulsory.
Seriously. Look, for example, insurance. Are they saying that when you are registering your vehicle, DVLA, there, the insurance must be compulsorily provided?
No, it's not compulsory.
Yeah. So
but you're supposed to have it compulsory.
that is the issue, because once you step onto the road and you don't have an insurance cover, the police will apprehend you. So why is it that the first aid kit, they are saying compulsorily you must procure it there? Somebody want to do business. Somebody want to do business. And I said he's using the opportunity and taking advantage of the, it's good for us in this country. Either this thing will have gone through without Ghanaians resisting and showing any form of, disagreement. But today, a democratic environment is said that anybody, if one person, somebody threatening to go to court. It's like the national service thing that we talk about. If you are doing an insurance cover for service person, insurance by nature is an individual thing. You understand? You need to insure your life. How you determine what sort of insurance policy you want to have for yourself? Why should they make it compulsory that every service person must pay this amount of money for insurance? Why? Why do we want to be compelling people to? I think we are in a liberal, democratic environment, and I say people must have the freedom of choices and to decide on what they want to do. We must stop compelling people. And this will cause a problem. It's a whole problem. And I think, like Obi said, the president and the government must take a firm decision on this. If these people took that decision unilaterally, then hell must roll. They must not be allowed to drag, and like Obi said, the president was being insulted. You give opportunity for people to insult the president. If the president and the ministry did not know anything about it, then it's unfortunate. Well, the person should not be sitting in his office by now. The letter that the board issued should have also mentioned that the guy his appointment is terminated immediately.
Which guy?
The DVLA chief executive.
The minority is just happy on this to make the president take a decision.
No, you see, at the end of it all, you in authority, the buck stops with you. You understand? You may not directly, because you've put in people. The president cannot do everything. That's why he has ministers. That's why he has chief executives. And as such, it is a will of the president that these people will do things in the right way. If they fail, definitely people will point fingers at the president. It may not be right, but people will point fingers at the president. And that's why I'm saying that, as Obi said, disciplinary action should be taken, and as a deterrent to all others who are sitting at places and think that they can take decisions which will ultimately make we those who are political figureheads to suffer.
Okay.
Because today the Minister of Transport, yesterday I heard my brother Titus Glover all over the place. He ran right now. Somebody has taken a decision. He said he's not aware of it, but he's the one now. I said Apontenu Kowini Mekona. Apotro. No more atim fifre. Why?
Well, so let's move on. And we know that members of parliament are being recalled today, and the two of you are members of parliament because of the issue of, if we have to look at it, the main issues being a petition or perhaps a memo also sent to the speaker. Now, that will be taking place. When will you start sitting? That will be in the afternoon.
Midday.
Yes. But beyond this, Parliament also just passed the law on special prosecutor, and the president accented to that law. And the speculation, of course, by the news media had been that Kotoampa, a number of people were told Dr. Addison, etc., would be. But essentially, we've come to a head on this, wouldn't you say?
A head on what?
On now who ultimately could occupy that position, just because the president has accented.
Well,
to that.
Yes, certainly. Thank you. Sometimes you sit back and you listen and watch. And some of these debates and issues, probably you want to think that people want to make news, people want to create news. For instance, before the ascent, I heard Sedu Getia almost every day. Sign the thing, sign the thing, sign the thing, and let's move on. To the extent that somebody raised it in Parliament, and I remember very well, Deputy Speaker Aban Babi had to more or less correct that person. What we do in Parliament, when we say that we've passed a bill to be assented to by the President, it doesn't mean that just the following day the President starts signing. Sometimes the bill stays in Parliament and at the AG's office for another 2 weeks or a month. Because what was brought to Parliament, we have more or less revised everything, clause by clause. You have to put everything together again and make sure that that is what indeed we decided in Parliament before it's sent to the President for him to sign. So if an experienced person like Sedu Getia has been in Parliament before, he's been Deputy Minister before, starts trumpeting this, and then the media also starts following, and others, the general public, they start following. Then we're creating a problem for ourselves, but that's just by the way. The President has signed, it's now law to be gazetted. The date of the gazette indicates that the law is now effective. Now you actualize it. Who do we have in mind that the President will appoint this time with prior approval of Parliament to occupy that position? How do we set up the office and everything? And as you heard the Vice Presidency, very soon the name will be mentioned, and then the process will start, including appearing before the Appointments Committee. The two of us belong to the committee for us to more or less interrogate the person, vet the person, and then submit our report to the whole house whether the person is suitable to make history, occupy the seat for the first time. And all the safeguards are in the Act. So probably we need to tally a bit. Yesterday I heard your network, partly speculation, partly rumor, partly this, they say, oh, Akutambao, and then Deputy Addison. I was laughing, where did these people get this information from? I mean, which grapevine, as you say? A few days, let's wait. The Speaker will announce the name in Parliament and to be referred to the Appointments Committee, and the work will go on. But the conditions and everything for the person to become a special prosecutor, they are spelled out in the Act. The security of tenure and the kind of experience the person should have, all those things are there. So, sure, sooner than later, these things will come out and the rest of the work will be done.
Yeah. Once again, thank you. I think this is a very important issue. It's a very important office. And my first reaction to this is I think that this is an institution that we must not overtly politicize. At the end of it all, this country, all of us, every government has in one way or the other tried in a way to stop the incidence of corruption or even minimize the incidence of corruption in this country. We are coming from a background of the belief in the principle of probity, accountability, and transparency. And as such, these tenets are very important to us. So every institution that will that will help in expanding the frontiers of accountability and probity, we are all for it. And as such, we have no reservation at all about the creation of the Special Prosecutor's Office. However, it is our view that this office must reflect the tenets and the ideology behind it, the principle behind it, the direction that is meant to go. That it will be a very independent, strong institution that will look at the issue of corruption irrespective of political biases. It should be an office that will help. At least the presence of that office alone should be able to instill that sort of discipline in public office holders, so that everybody will know that there is a mechanism of prosecuting anybody who goes and falls foul of our expectations of probity and accountability in this country. So that's the reason why I have listened carefully to various comments that have been made as far as this office is concerned. I listened carefully to the debate. I participated in the debate, and I think that it is incumbent upon the government itself to take on board the whole nation in the creation of this office. That every Ghanaian must have the confidence in the office and the person who so be will be appointed to head that office. That because one of the principles in law is predictability. If I know that I will obtain fair trial, judgment, or fair interrogation, investigation in Obi Amwa, I don't have any fear. I will support that institution. But when people right from the beginning are suspicious about the institution and about the person who so be appointed, it creates a problem of
Why should it be suspicious if nothing has been done?
No. That's why I'm saying that it's a public institution. And I said the public must have trust and belief in the institution, one, and in the personality who will man the institution. It's important. It's a prerequisite for trust, building of trust in the institution. That's why I'm saying that all these views that have been collated about the office should not be discarded, should not be thrown away. It should be looked at carefully. And I will also want to side with Obi and asking Ghanaians to exercise restraint, because it goes through a process, and that process definitely will go through, because it is not an institution that you can just put in place without or sidestepping all these procedures. Because anybody can go to court and say you did not respect the constitutional provision in the institutionalization of this office, so I will not respect it. So we need to exercise patience so that people will go through the procedure and establish the institution well to insulate it from further litigation. So I agree sincerely. We'll wait. We'll patiently wait. Whoever is appointed. Let me be frank with you. The speculation about Akoto Ampao, I have no problem with it. He's my senior colleague. I know him as a person. I know who he is. Sheshe, I've related to Sheshe for a long time. My only joy is that she and the Attorney General herself are all from the best hall in any university in this country and the world, Mensa Sabah Hall. So, as Vikings, I expect them to be guided by the tenets of Vikings and make sure that they really, portray the image of Mensa Sabah Hall and make sure. I'm speculating. Maybe I'm lobbying for him too.
Okay.
You don't know.
That's good.
You don't know.
But at the end of the day, his utterances and responses also speak to how, if it's multi-partisan or bipartisan, the appointment should be, or even somebody who has a buy-in of everybody.
Yes, the Constitution, thankfully, has set the rules. We want to even go one step further. We don't vet the chair of charge. We don't vet the chair of EC. But we live with such institutions, in spite of all its imperfections and infractions. Now we want to go one step further by saying that whoever you put there, let the person also appear before Parliament, so that parliamentary approval will also give it a certain
national.
But we don't vet those people because they don't have prosecutorial powers.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. It's not because they don't have those powers that we don't vet them, but they occupy very sensitive and useful institutions. And for us to even give them that support, that total, universal, overwhelming support, you may think that we who represent the people should also have a say. But we don't have that say. The other aspect is that even if you think the person who has been placed there is biased, is unfair, etc., the law courts are there for you. If people can sue the Chief Justice, why can't anybody sue the Special Prosecutor? So if the person comes there and you think that he's witch hunting or he's not applying the rules, you have every right to take him on. That you are selective, you are biased. And the law allows you to do it. So
right from day one, if the person is seen to be overtly political, it creates
well, so far, I think that now we're just preempting.
Yes, we are preempting.
In your mind,
I agree.
But you say that he's prosecuting this person for $5 million loss. Why is he not prosecuting this person for 100,000? Because he's not done that, then he's biased. If you're going to proceed that way, then obviously we'll be in trouble. Because even at the Attorney General's office, it's not every case that you see them chasing those cases.
Now, for example, I pick your last thoughts on this. In the whole spirit of bipartisanship, sometimes we're all political people, and so the speculation of political commentators and the media sometimes is misconstrued to be a position of government. While we know that parallel to that
especially
structures, well, structures and the rule of law. What parallel to that are structures and the rule of law for which people can seek redress or even be protected by. So you have media headlines like being attributed one to Kuku Anyido when he's mentioned Obribwai. So, and the headline says, NDC will use special prosecutor to jail corrupt appointees if they are also elected back into power. And then you have one Kusi Boafo, he is the head of public procurement, Dr. Kusi Boafo. He says, I will fight Ekufuado if corrupt Mahama appointees are not jailed.
No, you said head of procurement. It's not possible.
Is the
head of procurement, public PPA?
No, it's...
PPA is ABAJ.
Public...
is that NGO or something?
Reforms, no. Public sector reform. He's the head of public sector reform.
What institution is that?
A public sector reform office, and he made those pronouncements.
What institution? No, it's a private institution. I don't think.
No. It's public sector reform office. His office is around the Ministry of Finance. I've been there.
He made these comments.
Yes. Now,
it's unfortunate.
but
It's unfortunate.
but
He must leave his office.
But ultimately, if we take a look at it,
Yes.
the media speculates, and sometimes it's misconstrued to be the fact. It's construed to be the position of government. That also heightens.
You need to sell your news.
Yes.
With sensational headlines.
Yeah, but it also heightens.
Like Neil take being quoted as saying you make Ghana ungovernable.
So it also heightens the atmosphere, charges people's minds, their opinions, etc. How do we look at that in one breath and try to situate the way the operation of the special prosecutor and the office should be ideally, and try to give that confidence to the citizen?
Well, if you follow the experienced traditional media, CNN, BBC, GBC is experienced traditional, but not to that level as those international media houses.
I'm sorry, I will not take that.
Oh, can't we rank?
I sit here as a former staff of
Can't
GBC.
we rank?
No,
They are not a power with CNN.
He said they are experienced.
And then he too.
They are not a power.
He was trained in GBC.
But they sit here about GBC every time. If you follow those media houses, there's a certain professional environment, there's certain rules that they follow, even if they are biased towards one tradition or the other. CNN obviously is pro-Democrats, but they try to balance very well.
Reportage, yeah.
So you get people who give you that quality of opinion, not rabble-rousers. As for rabble-rousers, in their sleep, they wake up and they want to comment on that matter. And probably you get some media houses also trumpeting it and making headlines. That is problematic. But if you get, I respect somebody like Emil Short very much, because he's been there before. He's very seasoned. I may not agree with all that he says, but once he makes a statement, I want to engage him at that level. I'm not interested in somebody who just make a statement with no basis and then I have to jump in. So you are a critical part of our democracy, and you should sometimes look at some of these things. I know maybe for your media house you try a lot to see the balance or to bring in the balance, but by and large we still have a lot to do, especially media, because you are the outlet of our democracy. What comes out from you is what shapes and drives everything. If you say you're running Ghana and you don't have, the people don't hear you, they are not running Ghana. And it's through you that the people will hear you. So the balance is critical. And the prejudice is fine because of the politics. People just throw it in. So they've been brought there to jail our people. So when we come,
they are fierce like that.
Oh, so when we come, we also jail them. You heard all those things before. Attorney General saying that we jail all of them. Or how they and all those things. We are in this democracy. I mean, it doesn't work that way. So long as our judicial system is fairly good, our legislative system is working, civil society is very active, including the media, nobody can have his way in this country.
All right.
Nobody. The facts will be there. After all, people were sent to court for how many years? You stay 7 years in court. You were still freed. So
No wonder the former president said that members of the party, NDC, should solidarize with his would-be appointees that could be.
said he won't waste his
Anyway.
time.
Well, you see,
Let's move on to
I totally
to make
agree.
a comment.
I totally
I just
agree
wanted to-
with what Obiamo has said. As a journalist, as a trained broadcaster and journalist, I would say that sometimes we cause a problem, because when there are issues, instead of looking out for the people who have the background, the knowledge, the intelligence, the requisite experience to talk about those issues, we just pick anybody. I heard Abronye talking about special prosecutor.
Oh.
you like dropping names.
No, Obi, it's important.
Well, let's move on.
You see, we must let people understand that
the media,
you are lowering standards.
the
It's
producer,
okay. You've made your point.
the host
You've
will
made
call
your
you.
point.
No, you
the
know-
Speaker of Parliament, Professor Michael Quay, has recalled the House for an emergency sitting today. It's going to take place, and the two of you will be there. Let me start with you, Obiamwa. We know there have been precedents Can you just give us some history if we have any?
Oh, certainly. It's not only during this term. It's been going on for a long time. Remember the Kwazo Gate. The Abacha supposed to have given money to a former head of state in Ghana. It was a big issue in Parliament like Justice Alan. And then some other ones, but in recent history, of course, the Merchant Bank one, and the Fort Gate. So the law allows it's constitutional for 15% to be able to get a speaker to call Parliament under Article 1123. And once they bring us in, I think they already miss us after a few days from Parliament. So we're supposed to go back on 23rd.
Ideally?
Not ideally, that is the date.
Okay, the date that you're supposed to resume?
Resume.
After the Christmas break?
After the Christmas break. Just about a month break. But just after the New Year, they said we should come back because they want to discuss the so-called 100,000 as usual the creation of the media. Cash for seats scandal. I said, where did these people get these slogans from? As usual, creation of the media. And so we are ready for them this morning. We are at 9 a.m. The majority caucus will be meeting as to the way forward. If I had my own way, I would say that, right, let's go the full hog. After all, the organizers are known NDC. Bevo? Victor Bevo?
Yeah.
He's the chairman of the Excellence, whatever. And then Ashim Martin. Ashim Martin has been organizing this for how many years now?
I think things to the Kufuor area.
So it's Rollins, not even Kufuor. This is PNDC days. So from the private side, we know the faces. And then from the government side, they dealt with a ministry because they think that the ministry is in charge of that thing.
Give them credibility.
So I'm saying that if I had my own way, bring all of them, let them come and say it. The only thing is that if you are not careful, you belittle parliamentary probe. Because then anything above 100,000, if there's allegation, then let's sit in parliament. You're likely to create problem for ourselves. That is my worry. So that if you bring this and don't bring this, hey, you are being selective. Thankfully, there are other avenues for others to champion any cause that they want. If you are not satisfied, you want to go to church, fine. That is my little worry about that. Because if you look at the whole issue, as I said, the impression has been created that, oh, come and sit near the president, you pay 100,000. By going through even the items, I saw that it doesn't only mean sitting near the president, if even that is part of it. There are some aspects of air tickets, business class tickets, 5-star accommodation, a whole list of things that they are offering to you. They are offering. And if you're interested, you say that, okay, I'll go for it. You understand? And how this becomes...
Including sitting by the president.
How many people even sat by the president? You're talking as if the president was sitting at a table which could contain 50 people, and they all came and they all paid.
Or just a dinner table?
Just a dinner table, and most of the people there
the atmost
were government, including President Rollins, the Minister of Trade. I think there's only one person that we may say that was an expatriate. So is that why we should call a parliamentary probe? Well, if that's what they want, we're ready for it. Except that some of us even felt that if they really wanted to make the impact, a statement could have been issued and the speaker could have been coaxed in saying that I'm referring to this committee to look at so that they bring the report. But if you make it a motion, the motion will be seconded. There may even be a counter motion, and then there will be a vote. How you're going to secure majority? Probably you've spoken to majority of members of parliament. Majority, no, I'm not saying from any side, but you think that you have secured the support of the majority of members of parliament to be able to push this motion through. Otherwise, it becomes one of those things. And the dilemma for us is that you defeat the motion, you say, hey, they want to cover up. That's why they didn't agree that we should go through this. And when you go through it too, and what comes out, say, is biased. Because whether you like it or not, if you tell us to set up a bipartisan committee, majority will come from the majority side. So if the majority don't agree with you and they bring the report, it's the same song you're going to sing. Oh, cover up. Oh, we told you so. The probe cry, we cannot rely on it because the majority will bring out the report. Minority will be part of it. If you were to vote and the majority don't believe in what you're doing, we are back to square one. So if indeed we mean business with this, after all, the bond issue, he went to Shiraj. Shiraj has brought his report before the distortions that they are trying to bring up. And I heard a headline, minority to compel the government to do this. I said, look, is it their worst or is it the worst of the media? If you read the report, for instance, you are talking about absence of regulations. And the absence of regulation didn't start from today. We have to find a way of making sure that when it comes to these things, regulations are brought to Parliament so that we are all guided by these regulations. And it's the next thing you hear,
and it's an evolving democracy. So
you have look to comply with some of these things. That's the problem some of us have. The Act will be passed 20 years and now you not even have regulations to the Act. We create problems. But we should look at them in that light, not trying to say that I'll compare you to do this, I'll compare you to this, when you don't even have the power to compare. If you have the power to compare, they'll go to Supreme Court. Don't come to Parliament. Those are the issues. So this morning we are ready for them. Whatever they will throw, we are ready for them. And at the end of the day, I hope that they brought it. They will not come back to complain that there's a cover-up or we have been muzzled or they are using the majority to bully us. That's democracy. You've called for it.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very happy. I'm excited about the analysis being made by Obi Amwa. But I just feel that maybe Obi should have had these same convictions 3 years ago.
Meaning what?
You see, the same principle of much ado about nothing that we talk about when the issue of the Ford expedition happened is the same thing Obi Amwa is talking about today. The same scenarios which were created.
What involved the president?
But this one doesn't involve the president. This one involves the president.
The president has not taken any gift from anybody.
Well, as far as it is only a probe that can prove
that he took a gift from anybody.
Well, as far as we are concerned, it's only a probe. As far as we are concerned, it's only a probe that can prove that that thing did not have the authorization of the people who manage the president or the presidency or the ministry. It's only a probe that can prove. So what we are saying that we are either helping you to insulate the presidency and the ministry from the perceived corruption in this.
Your help with this matter.
So you're saying that's the main objective of
yes, to help President Akufo-Addo fight corruption in this country. He said that he wants to fight corruption as a minority, as good citizens who want to be citizens and not spectators, want to help him to fight this canker. And one of the areas we want to help him is for Parliament as an institution mandated to do these things, to use its structure and its processes to bring this thing to the fore. So that those individuals who really make sure or who really embark upon this adventure, the Carlos Gate, would be allowed to justify and to say and to tell us that what they did was right, was legal, was legitimate. So we can say, but then I'm saying this, if we all come to the conclusion, Obi say, I know they are going to have a meeting. I know this is going to be a 3-line whip, serious 3-line whip, that even appointees, MPs who are on sick bed will be brought to Parliament on this issue. I know it's going to be a 3-line whip, and I know, but pre this, in our discussions in Parliament, in our coffee shop and things, there were majority of them who were uncomfortable and felt embarrassed by what happened. And they complain about it, they talk about it. But if we will be objective, all of us will be objective enough as parliamentarians representing the people of Ghana, we will all say that, look, this thing, in order for this thing never to happen again, let's agree to make sure that we have a bipartisan probe to this. And then we can come out and exonerate, possibly our members of parliament who were involved, our institution, the ministry, and also the presidency, which in a way has been brought into this fray. It is important. It is important because if anybody tells me the president is not worried about this, the person is lying. Why did the president call the minister to report to the press last house?
Know what was happening.
Yes. 2, the president himself recently at a program, as a social program, mentioned this issue. That he hopes that the seats around him has not been, people have not paid for.
That was the musical awards.
You know, so
our president's crack jokes.
Is it? Yes.
Obama is number one.
No, Obi, he's cracking the joke because whatever happened is what has worried him. That's the reason why he's using it as a reason to release the stress and the tension around it. So I'm saying that it is important. And me, I think that this particular day, today should be a day for us,
Roland, so this
as parliamentarians.
Roland,
that people like Obi Amwa and the rest.
No, this could have waited for 23rd.
No. Oh, no. Oprekunam, what they no show though.
Oh, they
23rd
all the way and pay transport again.
But the further expedition, we said for the further expedition was nothing. It was in the fleet, but people said by force. We should come back. We should come back. That time, I was on my campaign trail.
Foreign contractor accused of.
And you recall the job has not been offered. Job has not been offered to the person. Nothing has been.
Now let's pick the thought of the executive director of the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs, Dr. Rashid Draman, on this subject. He has been interacting with Mama View Sobwaji.
So how does this work once this article in the Constitution has been triggered?
Well, I think essentially what it says is that that's, I believe, Article 112, and then our standing orders 38 2, I believe. Simply, I think once you have about 15% of the membership of Parliament signing a petition and saying that Parliament should convene and look at a particular matter, then the Speaker has no choice but to comply, because that's a constitutional provision, and that's also in the standing orders. So this has been triggered by minority MPs. Of course, they have more than 100 members in the House, so they have more than the 15% that is required. So a number of them signed a petition and asked Mr. Speaker to recall Parliament to deal with this matter, and Mr. Speaker has complied, and Parliament is coming back on Friday, I believe, instead of the scheduled 23rd January. That was supposed to be the time they were coming back from recess.
Sure. But first of all, is this a matter that you think was urgent enough to get them to return to the House, knowing the implications in terms of the cost involved, possibly?
Yeah, certainly I think, in my personal opinion, that for a number of reasons, this is not quite an urgent matter, because, you know, the first time we heard about this issue was when Honorable Muntaka Mubarak raised it on the floor of the House. So this issue actually came from Parliament, from the vigilance of the minority in keeping the government on its toes and so on. They had an opportunity during the dying days, even though I believe they were preoccupied with the budget and so on and wanted to pass the budget. But you see, the second reason why I think perhaps maybe this matter could have waited for Parliament to come back is mainly because there's a recent history, there's a precedent. In 2016, I think around September or thereabouts, when the Ford saga issue and so on. And in fact, those of us who watch Parliament, we really, were very curious to see, because for the first time, there was an attempt to trigger an impeachment kind of and censure on a sitting president, which had never happened in our democratic history. So that came, and within a few hours it was disposed, and they were asked to go back home. At that time, the NDC was in power, and NDC said, this was a waste of taxpayers' money, and so on and so forth. It could have been handled in a different way, and so on. Today, the minorities have changed. The MPP is in power. MPP brought that motion then, and now I think MPP is saying, we have heard many MPs say that this is a waste of resources and so on. So for me, I think both sides are agreeable that triggering this constitutional and provision and in our standing orders, I think both sides, if we can rely on what they have said,
whilst in power.
Whilst in power and whilst in opposition, I think they are all agreeable that this is indeed a waste of our resources. Maybe they could wait and deal with it. Nobody is saying this matter should not be dealt with. But somehow I think it's law, and if we are in a constitutional dispensation, I think Parliament should be the first to to respect the laws that it has set.
But let's break the cost down. So we're bringing MPs from all across.
Yes.
It doesn't matter where they are.
Yes, it doesn't matter where they are. They are summoned. They have to come back. And I know that most of them are abroad because this is recess. Normally, this is a time that they should be spending a lot of time with their constituents and so on. Some of them are in their constituencies and so on. But we have no way of verifying that. And that's another aspect of our arrangement. We are able to see them in the house. We are able to feel it when they do oversight and so on. But when they do representation, sometimes we don't know because, first of all, they don't even have offices. There are no proper structures in the constituencies. So if I go to my constituency right now to meet my MP, I don't know really where to go apart from
his house.
And we know the history. Sometimes you go, there's a long queue, and you don't even meet the member of parliament and so on. So they are supposed to be there. Some of them are taking holidays.
They've traveled outside the country
and so on. And they have to be brought back. I don't know the mechanics of it.
At whose expense?
Well, if you are calling somebody to come to a meeting, you bear the cost of bringing the person back. If it's a normal sitting of parliament, then I think everybody is aware and they have their own arrangements. You come, you show up. But I believe this is at the cost of the taxpayer that, all these people have to be brought back.
And it could just be for a few hours.
Yes, if this is, history is anything to go by, when Parliament was recalled the last time in 2016, I think it just took a few hours. And Honorable Duajaho said, this is dead on arrival.
And that was it?
That was it. He made a ruling, and that was it, and they all had to go back. So if we see the same thing in...
But what do you think? Because this is the minority that is calling for this.
Yes.
And when it comes to voting, and if we're taking majority numbers,
yes,
the majority obviously
has the numbers.
Yes.
Yes. If it whatever issue, however, is going to be decided, if it has to come down to a vote, I think the minority cannot match the majority. I heard the majority leader I think a few days ago say that they want to try and see, they want to jaw in his own words, try and see with the minority if there's another way of dealing with this. I think they failed. So if they come back on Friday and whatever issues, depending on the way Mr. Speaker decides to go, if it has to come down to a vote, then they have lost in advance.
Would they take allowances for the sit-in?
Well, this is a special sitting of Parliament. And when it comes to the compensation of members of Parliament in our country is almost like a secret. So I don't know, but I believe they would. Because this is not if you like, a normal session, a meeting of Parliament. But, you know, whatever it is, you know, whenever you convene Parliament, there's a lot of cost to it. There's a lot of cost to it. So you and I have to bear that cost.
Even though we not necessarily agree to the decision.
Yes. I mean, that's what you have to deal with in a democracy. I mean, if it was a dictatorship, one person can just get up and say, this is not necessary, and that's it. But in a democracy, I mean, you cannot do that.
But let's briefly look at the subject matter itself.
Yes.
The minority is calling for a parliamentary probe. Is this, again, a matter that deserves to be looked at by Parliament, considering, remember that the President has made some comment on this.
Yes, exactly.
Essentially clearing the ministry of any wrongdoing.
Yeah, and that's the challenge that we have. I mean, ordinarily you would say that this is really a matter that all parliamentarians should take an interest in. But let's remember the kind of arrangements that we have, the constitutional arrangement that we have. And then also the fact that most of political activities, campaign, and so on, is very opaque in this country. Most of the people in Parliament, the ministers and so on, they get a lot of support from their party or from sources that we don't know of. They have a lot of allegiance to party. So if the leader of the party has come out to say this minister is cleared, and you have a lot of colleague ministers who are members of Parliament, you have the majority, we've already had a number of comments. All these are pointing to the fact that we are still going to see that deep partisan division on this issue. NDC would hold one view, and almost certainly NDC MPP would hold a contrary view. This is not a matter that I believe we are going to see some consensus on. And that is what is worrying. Today, I was listening to radio and they said the Economist Intelligence Unit made some predictions about Ghana for 2018. And one of them was the way, our politics is characterized, by very deep partisan division, and that doesn't seem like it's something that is going to go away very soon. And unfortunately, both parties don't learn lessons. Once a party has power, sometimes they act and behave as if, there wouldn't be change someday. Because what we hear when people are in opposition is completely different from what we hear when they are in power. I hope that one day they will learn the lesson that when you are in power, that's when you need to begin to do most of the things that you used to call for when you are in opposition, so that slowly we can entrench that culture. That it's not only when you are in opposition that you provide oversight. I think oversight is a responsibility of all members of Parliament. And this particular matter, I think, is of course a matter of public interest, and Parliament has to take an interest in it. But unfortunately, because of all the systemic challenges, I am not too sure, I'm not very optimistic that we'll get the entire 275 members rallying around united on this issue.
Finally, knowing it's almost obvious how this is going to end.
Yeah.
Why would you think the minority will still go ahead? Is it a good position for the records, for the books, just so they can make reference to it someday? Is that a good position to take?
Well, I think they have a responsibility to provide a check on the government. And sometimes, as they say in parliamentary parlance, the majority would have its way, but the minority would have its say. And as you rightly said, it's for the records. You know, in this country, we are perpetually in a campaign kind of mode. So I wouldn't be surprised very soon when maybe MPs and political leaders mount campaign platforms. This will be one of the issues that will be used. So in other words, sometimes some of these actions are taken by minority parties, knowing very well that it will not yield the results that they want immediately, but it embarrasses the government of the day. It, you know, raises some issues in the minds of the public, and they hope that they can, I mean, use that as political capital someday.
Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you.
And that's Dr. Rashid Draman having that interaction with Mavi Osobwaje. He is the Executive Director for the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. So as somebody who has great experience in the way Parliament should be working, we know that he's also had his views. And Obi, you say that...
has he been in Parliament before?
He's almost just falling short of saying that the recall is needless.
I would put it that way.
Yes,
once Speaker has complied with the constitutional provision that we should go back to Parliament. I don't want to be quoted as saying it's needless, but it's not a priority. It's not a priority. Indeed, we could have waited. We're coming back at the end of the month.
In 18 days.
In 18 days. We could have waited, and anything that they would have gathered even within a period, we could still have brought it. It's just to create the sensation and also the headlines. A minority has dragged them back to. At the end of the day, as I said, I hope they will not start singing cover up.
Like the way like the way you sang.
No, because the majority will take the decision. Majority will take the decision.
Oh, you are preempting.
I'm preempting what?
The majority will
there
take
are people on your side who will even join.
Oh, but people are not aware that people on your side will join.
Okay, this. So the numbers will show. In a few hours, the numbers will show who will be the majority.
You know, one, let me say, you know me already. You know me the way I do my things, Roland. Permit me to say that I totally think the Mamavi's interview was not necessary. Because Dr. Rashid Draman has already made his point known to everybody in this country on this issue.
That what?
That there is waste of time.
And you're saying that his position cannot be reinforced.
No, yes. So
Parliament is
what is different?
Parliament
was
is
he going
going
to say anything different?
In 18
if Mamavi was going to tell me
Parliament
that
is going Dr.
Rashid Draman has had a change of mind on what he said earlier, I will be more interested in that. But he came to say the same thing he said already. So
no, but you are not the only viewer. He's educating us.
But anyway, that is good. But let me say this: I'm happy that the same drama, as Obi will tell it, that was played some few years ago on the Ford expedition, is the same thing that we are going to see. It's the same Osofodazi show will be seen. He say they will use their numbers. Fine. They should come and use their numbers. But we are saying that we want to assist this government as
I don't want to interrupt
citizens.
I beg you. I don't want to interrupt you. What I said was the fact that even if a committee is set up, the committee...
It will have more majority.
It will have more majority.
Yes.
And I'm saying that at the end of the day, whatever process we go through, we don't want you to come back to say that because the majority has taken a decision, it's a cover-up.
No, because that's what you said. No, that's what you said. No, the last time you said that we used the last time we used the jurisdiction of the court. That once the issue was in court, and then I remember you or one other person cited a case of I think Apollo or this but then the speaker still ruled against it. So I'm saying that
admissible.
I'm saying that if it's the same thing, I don't think it is wrong. We should all go, but then I wish that this time, for the first time in the history of this Ghana, and to accentuate the belief that President Akufo-Addo is going to fight corruption, Obiama should join the minority.
Well, I don't believe
the minority in asking for a bipartisan probe into this issue.
I'm saying that we shouldn't,
so that the presidency and the ministry will be insulated from this tag of corruption involved in this Carlos Gate.
And talking about Carlos Ahinkra, he gained a lot more prominence, and he's the Deputy Minister of Trade. When he had an altercation with the member of Parliament for North Tongue and Okujeto Ablakwa. We'll bring you that incident, and then we'll come back to discuss what the substantive of the issues were before we ultimately wrap up.
It is clear profiteering. Because we are not told that the MOU they signed with a private entity, they are a charity organization. And we are not told what they are going to do with the sums that they have used public office to raise. Use the Ministry of Trade and Industry, not the private office of Mr. Lanchamati or Mr. Carlos Ahinkra. You use the Office of President of Ghana, Office of President. You use that to franchise, to raise funds, $100,000 to sit by him. This is unethical, it's immoral, it flies in the face of the Fees and Charges Act. You cannot defend this. This is desecrating the office of the president.
Do we need a high-level probe on this? Maybe a parliamentary probe, you think?
Yeah, we do. But first of all, we are demanding that all the sums extorted should be returned to the expatriates. We are also saying that the people of this country are owed an apology because it is clear that they have dented the image of Ghana. And I can tell you that because I've been talking to the expatriate community.
Let him know that he's a thief. You have stolen through your life, and you have even lied through your education. Minister, please now listen to me. This guy who got his driver arrested because he stole 25,000 from his car when he had barely come into government. Because he's personalizing it. He personalized it, mentioned my name, and decided to go amok with this matter. That's the reason why I want to start from this angle. And I am very, very disturbed by the way they are lying their way through this matter. And I think that it's high time we bring it to a rest. Now, what is going on? Sometime this year, early this year, an event organizer called Millennium Excellence Foundation, which is chaired by the NDC, bigwig, Honorable Victor Beho, Ambassador Victor Beho, came up with his team and his board, came up with an idea to organize an event for expatriate businesses in Ghana. This event was geared towards recognizing the importance of expatriates, foreign direct inflows into this country, some of whom go back 4 generations.
So that's Carlos Ahinkra, the Deputy Minister for Trade, but also member of Parliament for Tema West. But Adi, we know how the minister reacted, but it's also because of the way the whole issue started and the comments from the Minority Chief Whip, and ultimately we had Okujeto Ablakwa also commenting on the subject. Perhaps the issues could have been handled better.
Well, initially, I remember we were discussing the budget of the Trade Ministry. Then the Minority Chief Whip, his contribution spoke about whether Parliament had approved what they had earned from that event. Mm-hmm. That's how it started.
That it should come an account.
Can he say that Parliament should have approved this as IGF fees and charges?
Which is legitimate.
That's how it started. Until later I saw that Kujetu had jumped in because he's a ranking member on Foreign Affairs. Otherwise, it didn't really concern him.
Oh no, because of the expatriates.
Yes, but if you are a ranking member for Foreign Affairs, it doesn't mean when we hold an event here and there's even one expatriate involved, then it's your remit. Yeah, this is not Foreign Affairs matter. But he jumped in, all right, it's his legitimate right. And then, of course, would use words that would provoke anybody. Started without even doing any investigations. Your side of the story is that this is profiteering. This is this. How did he end up with such statements?
Profiteering is a small word.
He went on. Scandalous is this, all the adjectives that you can think of. Obviously, the deputy minister could have avoided him. He didn't have to be provoked by those statements. It's part of politics, especially if a person thinks that he can provoke you with such things. That is just the issue. But as to the probe, as I said, it will unfold today. And I hope our colleagues will accept whatever the outcome. As I said, if it's committee, we'll go to committee. After all, this bribery of appointment committee members and deputy speaker say also. There was a committee. And even the person who's alleged, or the person who made a complaint, he wasn't satisfied with the outcome. He said, if you say I should apologize, then I apologize. I hope it doesn't turn out this way. And we should really be careful, because if you're not careful, you alienate this community. Come and tell us why you give 20,000 here. Come and tell us how you give 100,000 here. If it's not managed well, given our media landscape and the political environment, everybody sometimes goes overboard in some of these comments. If you're not careful.
But already the next time, I'm not sure we're going to get the
implications. Nobody is saying that because they're expatriates, they cannot be scrutinized, or if they're doing the wrong thing, we should not talk about it. But so far, I don't think anybody has been able to come out to say that.
No, but there are receipts. So
what they did, there are receipts.
There are receipts.
Yes, there were supposed to be receipts, because they said that they should pay into the account of
the ministry.
The ministry. There are supposed to be receipts. If there are no receipts, then that is even more scandalous. That's more scandalous. So if he even paid 100,000, and I stated it on record, I should have brought some of the documents. Nobody paid just because he wanted to sit with the president. Nobody. Because if you look at the list of items that you were supposed to respond as an offer, it was only one item. It was only one item. So for anybody to say that...
It was not only for a seat.
It's not only for a seat.
It was a package.
It wasn't only for a seat at the so-called presidential table. So how it became cash for seats.
So that's why there should be a bipartisan probe.
Oh,
so that all these things will be laid to bed.
Do you need a probe before this information?
That's why I said
and
that.
You have the documents. You are aware, but you decide to only talk about the president's seat without talking about the business.
That's why I'm saying that the president is my friend. And I don't like his name being dragged into this.
Friends, you don't need enemies. We search friends.
I said the president is my friend, and I don't like the way he's being dragged into this. So
his name is being dragged into the
yes, give us a bipartisan probe to come out and insulate, so that to clear the president's name from such unpleasant. If you are
sincere, you get everybody
an unpleasant profiteering.
You have the document. You are saying that they charge 100,000.
They are picking and choosing.
Yes, you have the document, but you are saying they charge.
Well, since then we've had the Deputy Minister of Trade, Carlos Ahinkra, make an apology.
What happened here, I think, on Tuesday shouldn't have happened, if you ask me. It was what the researchers will call an outlier, something outside the norm. Issues cropped up. We got incensed. There was exchange of words. I was probably more aggressive. And I think that I wouldn't mince words. I should apologize to the whole of Ghana, the people of Ghana, for what happened. It shouldn't happen. I apologize to the institution of Parliament as far as you're concerned, because this is a house of honorable people, and what happened shouldn't have happened. Then, of course, my own brother, if you like, from another mother, being honorable people in the same house, we could have contained each other and not let words fly out of our mouths. I apologize unconditionally, and I say that let's let bygones be bygones.
And that's Carlos Ahinkra. But let's wrap up. So
that is a reformed Carlos Ahinkra.
Oh.
a reborn.
He's behaving as if he's never been provoked before.
Oh yeah, I agree with him.
As for Ni, he has a Commodore rank on it.
No, you see, I
the many
agree.
tantrums he's had on radio because of football.
I agree.
As a sports minister.
I agree. No, as a sports minister, I never had tantrums with anyone.
Oh really? On
no,
radio?
I made
Live
my
radio?
point. No, I never. I made my point, and you can decide to kill your head off with it. I don't care. I'm saying that this one, I as a person, I think that coming on the heels of what happened with the TMA demolition exercise, Carlos should have been a bit more tactful in this. He should have been a bit more tactful in this. To the extent that even that TMA thing even came to the local government committee of parliament, of which the two of us are members, and we have to invite him and invite the TMA boss and all to settle. So that should have made it. And I think that whatever it is, in parliament we work together. If Mutaka and Okujetu has said something that was unpleasant to you, you can engage them. You engage them. Look, in spite of all the problems I have had with the same man when I was a minister, today we engage, we talk. He comes to me, we discuss issues. On this Ministry of Youth and Sports budget, we discuss a lot of things. We discussed before we came, so that we can build consensus. As MPs, we should never be seen to be fighting each other in public. These arguments, we can have a decent argument on radio and television and all these things. Look at the way me and Obi sits here to talk. Look at the way we sit here with the Jakun to talk. That's the way we should do to promote our democracy. But the level it went, definitely, as Obi said, maybe some of the words Okujeto used may have touched on his nerves. But that is why leadership comes in.
Profiteering.
That is when.
This is scandalous.
Oh, profiteering is too mild a word.
Profiteering.
It's an understatement.
AFIC days, profiteering could lead you to
Yes.
But that's what Rollins said. He said Kalabule and profiteering is coming back.
Well, so I've had in the studio Sebun Suamwa, Member of Parliament for Ikappim South, but also Deputy Minister for Local Government. Thank you for joining me. I've enjoyed the conversation. Great 1 hour, 30 minutes. And then also Nilanti Vanderpuye, Member of Parliament for the Ododo constituency.
Your client.
All right, my client. Well, my client. Because we're going to manage this campaign for president.
Yeah.
But don't worry.
Yeah, I will be making my declaration soon.
Once Parliament start the proceedings, trust JoyNews. We're going to be live there. We'll bring you all the previews, the analysis, and of course, I will be here.
I'll be moving a motion for in camera.
We'll be having Mama
so that you will not be there.
Abuaje leading the various anchors, all that.